Group 1. All about knowledge, its properties and characteristics. Objectives. At the end of the session, students are expected to first be able to understand what is knowledge, know the characteristics of knowledge, learn the origin of knowledge, understand how knowledge is acquired, and lastly, determine the types of knowledge. For the table of contents, first topic would be presented by Miss Julie Marie Balabot. What is knowledge? Topics 2 and 3 will be presented yours truly, and Azucena. Topic number 4 will be presented by Mr. Mark John Alburo. How is knowledge acquired? And lastly, what are the types of knowledge by Ms. Ethel Bakwaha? According to Albert Einstein, information is not knowledge. The only source of knowledge is experience. You need experience to gain wisdom. Now jumping to my topic would be the characteristics and properties of knowledge. The characteristics and properties of knowledge includes first cultural. Why? Why? First, knowledge is the one who forms our culture, tradition, social norms in a certain society. Second, knowledge is being spoken. Being spoken in a sense or in a context where you can pass on those knowledge from one person to another through the use of language in which both of you understand. Lastly, guide. Human beings are rational beings. And when I'm going to say rational beings, we are capable in making decisions. Now, through the guide of knowledge, we would be able to determine or to decipher what is the proper course of action, what is right, what is wrong, what is true or false, what is logical, and what is illogical decisions. But how can we determine if that is a knowledge? First, imagine this sentence for a moment. John knows that blank. Fill in the blank of this declarative sentence. You can think of a million sentences that you can fill in on this. It's either John knows that tomorrow would be the end of the world, John knows that there would be no class tomorrow, and so on and so forth. Now, to identify what is a knowledge, first and foremost, it must have a knower, or also known as agent. In this sentence, our agent is John, the withholder of information, and that information is called propositions. Propositions is composed of accumulated information by the knower. And if there is this knower and propositions, then that is the time we can say that it is a knowledge. And to mind that propositions is mystery in a sense where we would not know what is the knower thinking or what is the knower's information withholding within himself or herself. It's just that propositions is an abstract identity in which it could be true or false, factual or non-factual, existent or non-existent. But as long as there is a knower, there is an agent and proposition in a certain scenario, in a certain situation, then that is a knowledge. To sum up, knowledge is the collection of information that you have seen, read, and evaluated over a period of time. And that information has now become how you see or interpret the world or so-called reality. Now note that has now become how you see or interpret. So, going back, if example we're going to say John knows that there would be no class tomorrow, that indicates a judgment. A judgment where John seen that there would be no class tomorrow. That is his interpretation of the reality for tomorrow. So that is should I say the most uh, basic thing that you can identify what is a knowledge. So moving on, origin of knowledge. Origin of knowledge is came from the branch of science called epistemology. Epistemology. It is the one who studied knowledge and number of issues such as what is knowledge, how to know if it is knowledge, and what are truth. But among of all subtopics in this branch or discipline, two most stand out about the knowledge in which they are opposite but they are actually the theory being supported right now. We have the empiricism and the rationalism. Empiricism, from the later and sensory experimentation. From this word, from this two statement or from these two statements, you can already identify or understand what is empiricism. Empiricism is the one who you can acquire knowledge through the use of your five senses and from experience. Perfect example would be newspaper, diaries, hearsay. By that, even though it is factual or not factual, as long as you hear it, you read it, you see it, you gain information from that, you gain it to yourself, and now that is knowledge. Now that's how empiricism works. We're in rationalism. We have reason and complex mental process, where it takes a long years of experimentation such as research, documentations, calculations. Perfect example is that rationalism does not believe in supernatural beings, but in empiricism they believe because that is the hearsay of our ancestors. So that is the difference between the empiricism and the rationalism. Thank you for listening. We will have Mr. Mark John Alboro for the next presentation.